Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to that church. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. It's going to be an awesome day. My name is Kendall Harness. I'm the student life pastor here at that church, and it's going to be a good day. I'm really excited about this message and what God has planned. But first, before we actually get into that, we have, like Jessica said earlier, we have an awesome thing happening at our Cabot campus this week. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, we're going to have Ken Freeman coming in. He's an incredible speaker. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be at our Cabot campus. Some of you are like, I've never been to our Cabot campus. Here's the perfect opportunity. It's not a Sunday. It's an evening. You can come hang out. You don't have to go all 3 nights. You can go just one night or whatever you want to do. But you do have to go online. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to pull out your phones. If you have the thatchurch.com app, it's super easy. Just click on there and do it that way. Or if you don't, make sure and download that later because it's pretty sweet. And then also go on just your Safari and just go through, click the Ken Freeman tab, and then just reserve your seat for whatever night you want. If it's all 3, if it's 2, if it's 1, whatever it is, make sure and reserve your seat because it's going to be an awesome event and you don't want to miss it. You really don't want to. But today, we're going to be talking about struggles. It's week 3, and it's going to be incredible. As we work through this series, we've talked about the selfie, we've talked about social media, we talked about a lot of different things. And as we dive more into social media, we start to see the advantages and kind of disadvantages of social media. And as we kind of search through the advantages, it has the advantage to be able to bring something that no one was even talking about to complete stardom kind of overnight. One thing that you can think about is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. That literally for 3 or 4 weeks, you could not get on any form of social media without seeing someone dump ice cold water on their head. It was impossible. You couldn't do it for 3 or 4 weeks. And they raised, millions of dollars and awesome stuff was happening. And then kind of just as fast as it came, it kind of just died off. And there was an attempt a couple weeks ago to try to start it again, and it just didn't work. So, it just kind of died off. Came really quickly and then died off. Same thing with Coney. 200 Nigerian schoolgirls go missing, and it captures the heart of the world and the American nation. Everybody's kind of on the edge of their seat looking for what's going on for these 200 girls. Find these girls, blah, 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 bring them back, blah, whatever it is. We had hashtags, we had the whole 9 yards. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of as quickly as it came, it kind of died off. Unfortunately, those 200 girls are still missing as of today. They're still missing. And I would dare say that nobody's posting about it anymore. It's sort of old news now. It's kind of gone. And so scientists begin to study. They're like, okay, so how does this social media society we live in, this fast-paced society, affect us? How does it affect us? And so they did a study on 4,000 college students at the University of Michigan in 1979. Okay, and then they took that same study and did it on 4,000 more college students in 2009. And basically what they did was they asked the students a series of questions. And on these questions, students could grade themselves 1 to 5 on how well you think you do this, whatever this thing is. One of the questions was, I sometimes try to understand my friends' struggles better by looking through their eyes. So sort of to put myself in their shoes kind of thing. How well do you think you did that in the 1980s? How well do we do that now? Another question was, I sometimes have tender feelings for people less fortunate than me. So do you ever feel for other people, or do you always feel for other people? 1 to 5, how well do you do? In every area associated with caring for other people, the United States dropped 40%. 40%. We care 40% less than what we used to. And it's funny, as I look out across the crowd, there's some of you that are like, so when's lunch? This guy is going too long. But we care 40% less than what we used to. It's a staggering statistic. If it was 5%, maybe 8%, that'd be one thing. We're like, chalk it up, that was just some weird college kids or whatever. But 40% is a very large percentage. So scientists begin to try to put the kind of the reasoning behind it. How have we dropped 40%? What has changed to make us drop that much? And they directly associated the drop in compassion with the rise of social media. And before you tune me out, here's the reasons that they gave. Reason number one, we are more obsessed with ourselves. We're more obsessed with ourselves. 80% of everything we do on social media is directly related to us. 80%. When you get on social media, you're going to look at your page, at your pictures, at things that you want to see, at celebrities you want to talk to, or whatever it is. You're getting on there to do the things you want to do. Social media is really about you and not the people that you're on there with. Number two, overwhelming exposure to suffering has desensitized us. Overwhelming exposure to suffering has desensitized us. And isn't it so true that now with information as readily available as it is at the fingertips, that you can get almost a dump of knowledge and information and tragedies and things that have happened and stuff that's gone wrong, that you're just like, oh my gosh, how do I care about everything? I mean, my goodness, there's so much hurt, there's so much going on. How we just begin to kind of tune it out, like, then none of it really matters. I mean, it doesn't really affect me. I mean, what's it really matter? Overwhelming exposure to suffering desensitizes us. Also, scientists argued that with phones and TVs and those types of things, everything is flat. Everything is flat. And so like on your phone, when you're scrolling through whatever social media, or if it's the CNN app or whatever, you're going to see, a recipe for guacamole. You're going to see one of those stupid cat videos. You're going to see somebody hitting the Quan, and then you're going to see some, it's a link to Compassion International where they feed kids in Africa. So which one of those is more important? On the screen, they're all flat. They all occupy just about the same amount of space. And so in our mind, we begin to prioritize them just like the screen does. But they all just about mean the same, don't they? And the guacamole recipe or the kids in Africa, what's more important? But our brains can't seem to separate. That was the scientists' argument. And the third reason they gave was a lack of personal interaction makes it easier not to care. A lack of personal interaction makes it easier not to care. If I'm on social media today and you post, just lost my job, I'm going to get on there, I'm going to comment. I'm like, so sorry, we're praying for you guys. Call us if you need us. Which, when people say call us if you need us, they don't really mean that. If they called you, you'd be kind of annoyed. And it'd be kind of like one of those things, you say it, but you don't really mean it. And people that are like, oh, I do it. You're lying. It's all right. We all do it. It's one of those things. But the thing is that there's, I would post on there, and I'd be like, man, and then I'd feel good about that. And then it's over. I wouldn't think about it again, really. I may check in with you like 6 months from now and be like, hey, did you ever get a job? Well, how'd that work out? But if me and you are sitting down at lunch, and you look me in the face, and you say, Kendall, I just lost my job. And you tell me how you just had to pull your two little girls out of dance, and how your house payment's coming up, and your mom's in a nursing home, and you're not sure you can make that payment. All of a sudden, I'm moved to a completely deeper level of compassion. All of a sudden, I'm at a completely different place. Instead of just, I'll comment real quick, boom, done, connection over, we're done, boop. All of a sudden, I'm checking on you every day. Hey, did you get that figured out? I'm trying to get you help. I'm trying to hook you up with people I know, get you a job, get it figured out, because this matters. But on social media, it's clean, and it's easy, and it's easy to separate. It's easy to be like, it's kind of just done. I commented. Isn't that good enough? I'm praying. I may have forgotten, but Jesus forgives, right? But that's where we kind of go with it. And then it's over. I'm going to give you two overarching kind of themes that will be with us through the rest of the message. First, true compassion demands action. True compassion demands action. I looked up the word compassion in the original text in the Bible, and the word that they used is splagnizelmehi, okay? And I practiced for like 4 hours this week, so I'm going to say it again. I had to practice in the mirror. I listened to people say it on YouTube, the whole night. Splagnizelmehi, okay? And what that basically means is this. Its root definition is to have the bowels yearn. Leave that one up for interpretation. But no, I mean, I don't really know what that means, but I know it's serious. And so the thing is that, but they gave us a better definition than that one, and it's to feel deep sympathy or to be moved to action. So the word for compassion is splagnizelmehi, and splagnizelmehi literally means to be moved to action. So our compassion sometimes is bottled up and doesn't have an action. It doesn't result in actions. But when your compassion doesn't result in actions, it's not really compassion at all. To say you care but not act is to not care at all. To say you care but not act is to not care at all. Coincidentally, every time the word compassion is used in reference to Jesus, every time he's filled with compassion, it results in an action. It results in Jesus doing something, whatever it is. And this is some instances just so we have proof. Mark chapter 1, verse 40 through 41. A man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. If you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean, he said. Moved with compassion, so filled with splagnizelmehi, his bowels yearned, and he said, moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him. He says, I am willing, be healed. Jesus didn't just turn and say, oh man, praying for you. Got stuff I got to do. There's cream for that. You better go pick it up down there at the CVS or whatever it is, man. You better do it because that stuff is nasty. But Jesus, filled with compassion, did. He did something. Didn't just post, didn't just like, didn't just share. He did something. Matthew chapter 14, verse 14. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Again, Jesus moved with compassion, action. Compassion, action. Last one, Matthew 20 and verse 34. Jesus has a group of blind men come to him, and he heals this group of blind men. This is what happened. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. Now, some of you may be sitting here and you're like, oh, okay, Kendall, I can't really heal people with leprosy. I've never had an experience where I could heal somebody with, that's blind. I've never made them see before. So how does that relate to me? Maybe that's not what you can do. But there's always something. There's always something you can do. Your compassion should result in an action. And if it doesn't result in an action, the question you have to ask yourself, is it really compassion at all? Am I really being compassionate if I do not act? If I do not act. So my question for you is this. When was the last time you really went out of your way to serve someone else? Think about it in your mind. Just think about it. When was the last time you served and you felt it? Not like a serve, like, oh, I just did something for somebody, helped a old lady across the street, whatever it is. But you served and served to the point to where you felt it. You're like, man, that's what it's supposed to be like. When was the last time you gave financially to the church, to an organization, whatever it is, that you gave and you felt it? Not your 10%. Your 10% is your tithe. That's your offering to God. That's obedience. I'm talking over and above. When was the last time you gave and you really felt it and it felt? Some of you sitting here right now, praise Jesus, can say, you know what? I remember a time. I remember the last time. I remember it. And it was recently. I remember serving. I remember doing those things. But some of you right now are backpedaling in your mind trying to think of a time when you felt it like that. You're trying to remember. You're clicking through different things. And I don't just say that to try to put you down or make you feel like you're less than someone else or whatever. It's not about that. But the deal is that there's a depth to your relationship with Christ that right now you may not be experiencing. And I want you to get to experience the depth of that relationship. And nothing can hold you out of it except for you. Nothing can keep you from experiencing that relationship except for you. You're the only one holding it back. And so today, hopefully, as we go through this message, you can start to see where Jesus' hand is. And Jesus can begin to guide you and begin to guide your spirit. With the last little bit of our time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some application to this message. We've built a pretty strong case for compassion, that we need more compassion, that we need to be more compassionate, and that, where Jesus is, there is compassion. And so we built a pretty strong case for that. But right now, we need application. What does compassion do? What does it do? 3 things it does. Number 1, it interrupts. Compassion interrupts. It's usually an interruption to the day. I can make a very strong case that Jesus and God He works through divine interruptions. That things just get messed up and God works through it. In Mark chapter 6, Jesus and his disciples are exhausted. They've been busting their rear ends trying to spread the word of Jesus and trying to minister to people and trying to love on people. They've been doing everything they can and they're tired. They just need a day off. In fact, it says in Scripture that the disciples and Jesus hadn't even eaten yet. They hadn't even eaten. So they're hungry, they're tired, and that's a recipe for disaster right there. But they're trying to get rest. They're like, man, we just need a place to lay down, get something to eat, and we can be done. But on their way to lay down, in Mark chapter 6, 5,000 men and their families gather to hear Jesus teach. 5,000 men and their families. So over 5,000 people are sitting here waiting for Jesus to teach. And Jesus finally says, you know what? I know we were going to go take a break, but guys, we got to minister to these people. I know it's kind of interrupting what we were going to do, but we got to love on these people. And Jesus feeds 5,000 people that day. And they love and minister on these people when they're exhausted. They were out of gas. Number 2, Luke chapter 8. Jesus is on his way to heal this little girl. And in fact, on his way to heal this little girl, she dies. And so time is of the essence for Jesus to get to this little girl. And on his way to get to this little girl, a little old lady steps out of the crowd. And she's had internal bleeding for years and years and years. And Jesus says, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to heal this lady first. And he stops and he heals this lady. On his way to raise the little girl from the dead, he stops. Some of you, right after this service, you're going to be jetting out of here to get to the kids area because you're the substitute for our children's workers. They're like, hey, get us a sub. These kids are killing us. But the thing is that you're the sub. You're the one that's supposed to go in. You're going in there, and you're kind of making a beeline for back there. But on your way, there might be somebody today who's in this room who just needs a word of encouragement from you, who just needs to talk to you. And I know that the children's workers will be upset, but maybe that's a conversation that needs to happen today. That maybe somebody needs that compassion from you on your way. Just because you're on your way to do something God wants you to do doesn't mean there's not something for you along the way. Doesn't mean God doesn't have something for you on the path, on the way to get there. The final one is this, Mark chapter 2. Jesus is teaching in Capernaum. And as he's teaching, he's in this little house. And all of a sudden, it's completely packed in the house. All of a sudden, ceiling tiles start to fall through and stuff starts hitting the ground. And Jesus is like, what is going on? And I'm sure it was falling on top of Jesus' head. And finally, they look up and they see these 4 guys lowering their buddy into the house because he's paralyzed. Their buddy's paralyzed. And Jesus is like, I was in the middle of my message. Like, if somebody starts tearing through the roof right now, we're calling the Sherwood police because they're coming to pick them up. Because 1, it scares me. And 2, I've worked hard on this message. I don't need any interruptions. But the thing is that they lower their buddy down, and Jesus stops in the middle of his sermon and goes, you know what? I know this sermon had a plan. I know I had a place I was going with this. And this was an interruption to where I was going. He could have been like, what the heck are y'all doing? You just dug through this guy's house. I'm sure the homeowners back there are like, what the heck, guys? I was just trying to host Jesus, and you're going to dig through my roof now? And so he's like, where's my insurance agency? But the thing is that Jesus stops with an interruption, and he heals this guy. He says, pick up your mat and walk. The guy stands up. Hadn't stood up his whole life. He's been paralyzed. Picks up his mat and walks through a divine interruption. I'll never forget it. I was on my way back here from Los Angeles, California. I was in Los Angeles for a year at the Dream Center and at their leadership school. And on my way back one time, it was a red-eye flight, which means I flew out in the middle of the night. It's like dark and stuff. And so I'm like trying to fly out, and LAX is the worst airport ever. If you ever fly through there, it stinks. And if you have, amen. Yeah, it's horrible. But anyway, so I'm trying to fly to LAX. My flight gets canceled. I usually fly to Houston, but my flight got canceled. So my flight's canceled. I'm kind of upset. It's the middle of the night. I've been up all day, hadn't had dinner yet. I was like, man, I was really ready to be home. And so I fly to Denver. They fly me to Denver, and I guess that's logical. So they fly me to Denver, and there's another flight to Little Rock that night. Well, that flight gets delayed 4 more hours. And so I was in LAX for 4 hours. Now I've been delayed in Denver for 4 hours. And as I'm sitting at the terminal, there's this guy, and he sits down next to me, and God's just kind of like, talk to him. I was like, God, no way. I'm tired. Are you kidding me? And you start playing that game with God where you're like, hey, if he pulls his wallet out and he sets it on his left knee 4 inches from the end, I'll talk to him. And if he gets up and he does jumping jacks for 30 seconds, then I'll know that it's you, God. Just to be sure, if he twirls around something so I can get the sign. And in fact, he does all those things. Even though I was playing that game with God, he did all those things. And then I was like, there's no way. So I put in my headphones. I got Taylor Swift blaring. I'm like, man, I'm just going to relax. I'm tired. Dude, I just need some sleep. I need to just get home. And so I'm trying to get home, get on the plane, and I'm sitting there in my seat. I've got a window seat, which I hate. I like the aisle, but anyway, I'm in a window seat. And guess who sits beside me? The same guy. Weird how God works, isn't it? So he sits down, and I've got my headphones in still, and God's like, talk to me. I was like, okay, fine. And so I pull my headphones out. I was mad, tossed my phone down. I was like, okay, I just need to talk to this guy. So we start small talk. Conversation dies, hits a dry spot. This guy sticks his headphones in. I'm like, oh, it's a sign. That was just Satan trying to tempt me to be like Jesus again. It's not a big deal. And so I was like, okay. I was like, God, that's a sign. I'm going to put Taylor Swift back in. We're all good. So I put my headphones back in, lay back, and I kid you not, we're in the air 5 minutes. And this guy's nose explodes. I'm talking blood, worst nosebleed I've ever seen in my life. And so he pulls his headphones out, I pull my headphones out. People are freaking out because we're like, this guy's going to need a transfusion if we don't get this thing stopped. And so we're trying to get this guy to stop bleeding. And finally, everything stops, and he's back there, got his thing going on. And I was like, man. And God's like, talk to him. I was like, talk to him? He just made the inside of this plane look like a scene from Dexter. Are you kidding me? No way. No. I was like, I'm not talking to this guy. I was like, can you imagine? He's probably lightheaded. My goodness. And he's going to be woozy. But I was like, okay, fine, God, I'll talk to him. So I talked to this guy. And I was like, dude, look, I don't know you. I'm not one of those weird spiritual people. I was like, but I feel like I need to talk to you. And the guy was like, broke down crying. Still holding his nose. Broke down crying. And he's like, man, I'll be honest with you. He's like, I haven't been the father I feel like I should. He's like, and I don't know how to fix it. And all these things. And he feels like he's overwhelmed by his sin and things he's done wrong and those types of things. I said, how much do you think God loves you? How much? I said, I've been delayed 8 hours. I was like, I'm on the wrong flight. I'm in the wrong city. I was like, but I'm here to sit beside you. That was the whole thing. And so me and him sit down, and I get to share Jesus with this guy, and he gets a chance to accept Christ that night on a plane back to Little Rock. And so it's just incredible. It's incredible what God can do. It's incredible what God can do through an interruption. Even though I was unwilling, all I wanted to do was just sit there. I didn't want to work with that. But right now, God made a way. And through an interruption in my day, God was able to work. And another man and a family has changed now because of God and because of what he's done. And so God works through interruptions. Some of you are in point man groups, or you're in Real Women, and and I encourage you, that's right, if you're not in one of those groups, get in one, because they're incredible. But they're in these groups, and some of you know who I'm talking about. There's that one person in the group that's just a little out there. They're never really on topic. They talk a little too much, and it's kind of one of those weird things. And you're fighting back right now in your mind. You're like, my group doesn't have one of those. Hashtag it might be you. But the thing is this. It might be you, but here's the deal. Maybe through that interruption in your evening, and maybe on a Wednesday, you decide, you're like, you know what? I'm going to spend some time with this person. I'm going to take an hour after Real Women or after Point Man, I'm going to spend some time with them, just loving on them. And you're able to take time with that person. annoying and interruptive and all sorts of things, you take time with them, and God's able to work through that interruption. The second thing that compassion does is it costs. It costs. Jesus tells a parable of a man who is riding his donkey just along the road, and all of a sudden he looks off in the ditch, and there's this guy laying there. He's been robbed, he's been beat half to death, and they left him to die. And this guy is called the Good Samaritan. He's riding along the road, and he stops. And I'm sure there was a moment where he thought, he's like, this guy's not going to be able to chase me down. He's probably not going to live to tell the story. I could just keep going. But he doesn't. He stops. And he loads the guy up on his donkey, bloody, everything else. It's like loading him up in your car, nasty, and he's like driving him, and he takes him to the hospital. And at the hospital, he drops him off, and medical bills are soaring, and you know it. This guy's robbed. He's broke. And so this Good Samaritan pays all the bills. And he says, you know what? If that's not enough money, what I left with you to pay all his bills, go ahead and do whatever you need to do, and then I'll be back in a couple of days, and I'll pay the rest of the bill. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. My word, you have my word, I'll be back. Incredible moment that this man would pay for a guy he'd never met before, pay his medical bills, and those types of things, make sure he was okay. Clicking is clean. Clicking is clean. Liking, sharing, commenting, those types of things on social media, that kind of interaction is clean. There's a definite start point and basically a definite end point. I can be like, we're kind of done. Boom. It's kind of over. I fulfilled my end of the bargain. But compassion is not clean. Compassion is messy. Compassion is hard, and it costs, and sometimes it gets ugly, and it's not always pretty. Some of you are going to lead a point man group, or you're going to lead a real women group, and you're going to fall in love with the people in your group. You're going to love on them. You're going to spend 8 hours this week preparing your lesson, and you're going to get there, and guess what? Half your group doesn't show up. And it costs. It's like, man, I spent 8 hours preparing, and my people aren't going to show up? Are you kidding me? But compassion cost. Some of you are going to foster a child. Some of you are fostering a child right now. Some of you are going to foster a child through our programs here at thatchurch.com. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to take that kid as your own, and you're going to love on them, and you're going to buy stuff for them, and you're going to be there for them. You're going to have them at church, and they're going to experience Jesus, and we're going to baptize them, and then guess what? The day's going to come, and you're going to have to give that kid back. But you'll have served a purpose in that kid's life. But it's hard. And it costs because you have to give that kid back. And you don't know what home they're going to. Just because it's approved, maybe you don't feel as good about it. But it's messy and it's complicated. Some of you are going to serve in our children's area. You're going to get back there. You're going to be captured by these little faces that just love to play carpet ball and celebrate Jesus and love these types of things. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start to realize that some of these kids in our groups don't come from the greatest of homes. That some of them don't have their AC on right now. That some of them don't have coats for the wintertime. That some of them have holes in their shoes and socks. And all of a sudden you find yourself at Walmart buying coats and buying shoes for little kids in our children's area because it costs and it's complicated and it's hard because compassion costs. Some of you are going to serve at Momentum at our Wednesday night service here for student ministry, 6th through 12th graders. You're going to serve there. And you're going to love on these students because they're fun and there's energy. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a blast. And then you're going to meet a student that you begin to help mentor, and you're going to begin to see the problems and the flaws, and some of them are cutting and they're hurting themselves, and you're not really their parents. There's things you can't say and there's things you can't do, and you're trying to mentor, you're trying to love on them, but you're not dad and you're not mom. So you're just kind of out there. And then if they don't show up, they just don't show up. Or if they're mad, if they leave or whatever, all of a sudden, this simple act of compassion becomes really, really complicated. And it starts to cost. There starts to become things that just cost. And it becomes difficult. Compassion costs. The last thing compassion does is compassion changes lives. Changes lives. Every time the word compassion is used with Jesus, 1, he acts, and 2, lives change. Every single time. I had a guy approach me in the lobby one time. He came up to me, he goes, Kendall, you guys send people to Haiti, right? I was like, well, yeah, we send people to Haiti. We send missions teams there. And he's like, well, what's that really do? He's like, really? You're going to send 7 people, or however many, 14, 20, 25, whatever it is, for 7 days to Haiti, one of the most poverty-stricken places on the planet. They literally, I watched a documentary this week, they eat dirt cookies. That's not like a mud pie from Popeyes. It's not the same thing. It's a dirt cookie, literally made of dirt. That's what these kids eat. And he's like, what are you guys really doing? He's like, it's awesome, yeah, but what are you doing? And I was like, I'll be honest with you, man. I was like, I'm not 100% sure we're going to be able to change the whole nation. Like, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, swing for the fences, go for the 2-point conversion. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I understand the poverty level. But just because we're not meeting those needs doesn't mean lives aren't changing through what we're doing. And I was like, and really, to be honest with you, are we sending people to Haiti to impact Haiti? Or are we sending people to Haiti to have themselves impacted as well? I've gotten students back from mission trips that I could not have done anything more to get them more on fire for God. They're so on fire when they get back that I've got to be like, hey, okay, how can we channel this energy? This kid is going nuts. They're here every single day. They're ready to volunteer. They're ready to do all these things. They're ready to go back. You know, it's like, okay, we're going back today. And it's like, man, but they're so on fire for God. Every time compassion goes forth, lives change. And it doesn't just mean that the people that you're having compassion on are going to change. It means that your compassion, in fact, will change your own life. Sometimes, even when you're the one that has to generate the compassion, it changes you more than it even changes the person you're having compassion on. Because God is working in you just as much as He's working in them. Incredible. So if you would bow your heads with me for just a second. For just a second. Every head bowed. There's one act of compassion I really want to highlight. I really want to highlight it. We've talked a lot about Jesus today. Jesus Christ gave His life in the greatest single act of compassion ever. He gave His life for you. He said, you know what? Their sin separates them from me. But I can't leave it that way. I can't live without a relationship with my kids. You're His kids. No matter how old or young you are, you're His kids. And He wants a relationship with you. He doesn't want a relationship with you through me or through anyone else. His relationship is specifically with you. It's personal. And so today I want to give you an opportunity. If you've never started that journey, I want to give you an opportunity to start it today. Just pray something like this. Jesus did all the work. But all you have to do is just repeat these words. You don't have to say them out loud. You don't have to move your mouth. And it's not even about the words. The words aren't like special. It's not ritualistic. It's not anything like that. Jesus died so that we didn't have to do all that. He died so that you can just say something simple like this. Just say, God, I know I've messed up. But I also know that Jesus died on a cross for me and took my place. And today He wants me to begin that relationship with Him and the greatest exchange ever. Dirt for diamonds. And God, I thank you and I accept that gift. And if you prayed that prayer right there, that's it. You're saved today, forever and ever. I'm going to pray for you. Lord, Heavenly Father, God, I just thank you for today. God, I just thank you for loving on us, God, and for giving us a chance to love on other people, God. Even though we don't deserve it, God, we're not good enough. We don't act good enough. God, but you bless us with an opportunity to love others. God, I thank you for that opportunity. I pray that you give us more opportunities, God. Help us to be compassionate. Help us to change the statistic, God. That instead of 40% down, God, we're 80% up. We're 80% more compassionate, God. That we'll stop, that we'll love on people, that we'll take the interruption, God. We'll pay the costs. And God, because we want to see lives changed. We love you, Lord. I thank you for all that you give us and do for us, God. In your name I pray.